5 game-changing detailing techniques.
Hi, I'm Ivan.
I'm Nick.
And this is the DIY Detail Podcast. Today we're going to go over some little innovations that we've brought to the industry that may have changed the way you detail and hopefully have improved your detailing.
If you've just gotten into detailing, you may never have heard of these. If you're a pro, I guarantee you're going to learn something. There's a little bit for everything here on the DIY Detail Podcast, but the goal here is education. So hopefully, through this podcast, we can teach you something that's going to help you.
Right. So what's the first one on your list, Nick?
I wrote them down. It's simple. We're going to start with simple, and then we're going to get into some good stuff here, but it's the foam rinse foam car wash technique.
Right. The foam rinse foam is nothing new, but it's something that we've taught on the channel since day one. And the reason we taught that is for safety. Now, for years, the 2-bucket method has been the way to go. Myself, for years, I never used soap. I used rinseless wash for over a decade without touching soap. So to me, this idea of 2 buckets just was foreign. And the 2-bucket method started maybe 15, 20 years ago. At that time, I was already using rinseless. Now, coming into DIY detail, we know we needed a foam because part of our audience is the do-it-yourselfer at home. And the do-it-yourselfer at home loves to play with the pressure washer and the foam can and have all that foam. But as a professional, stick with rinseless. That being said, the foam rinse foam, to me, the 2-bucket method just has so many flaws that it seems illogical to use it. And one of the flaws is you see someone taking your pressure washer or the garden hose and starting on the car by itself. That dirt has nothing emulsifying it, has nothing breaking it down. It's just dirt that you're driving into the paint using the pressure washer.
It gets confusing because there's big YouTube channels,
Yeah,
millions of subscribers where you'll see them with a disaster detail.
Yeah.
They hit the paint with just a pressure washer, no soap, no rinseless.
Yeah.
And it looks very satisfying. So you assume that that's how it's done.
Right. But remember that the detailing channels that do disaster details, they say it themselves. They're there for entertainment. They're not there for education. Now, the next thing, what we do is we put foam on first. So on a dry vehicle, we foam. That foam starts to emulsify the dirt, breaking it down, lifting it off the surface, and carrying it safely away, carrying the grit safely away. That way, when we hit it with the pressure washer, so the rinse of the foam, rinse foam, we're taking away the grit, and when we go to do the contact wash, there's no grit left. There's just a bit of traffic film, and that's a very important thing. Now, we do a second foaming to add a bed of lubrication to take our wash media to the surface.
Those all sound like fancy words. Grit, traffic film.
Yeah.
Care to elaborate?
Well, grit is just, the dirt that's on the surface. Traffic film is an oily film that you get from the road, that you get from other people's exhaust, that you get from, everything around you. The grit, if you go down a gravel road, that's grit. If you go down just asphalt and it's raining, you get traffic film on the vehicle.
And traffic film is designed to be removed, not designed, but our step is to remove the traffic film with agitation. It's a perfectly safe step at that point. It's the only way you're really gonna get that traffic film is with your wash media and some agitation. But at that point, it's been very safely set up because we removed the grit in that first step.
Right, and some people think that just they can use a chemical to remove that without any agitation. You need agitation. The chemical can only do so much.
I'm not familiar with every chemical out there. I feel like this touchless wash movement is getting pretty big. For the folks who say, actually, you can do a touchless wash, Ivan, you're full of it. Get off the internet and go somewhere else where you belong.
Yeah.
They're very vocal on TikTok, especially.
Yeah, exactly.
For the folks who say that you can do the touchless wash.
You can, but if you do a touchless wash, dry the car and just air dry it. Don't towel dry it because your towel is doing a lot of that work for you, which is not the right tool for the job. But do a touchless wash, air dry it, and then on the other half of the car, do a full contact wash. See which side looks better. And do that for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. You'll start to see an accumulation on the touchless side that on the contact wash side you won't.
If people think you're still full of it, you drive a bus around. That's your home.
Yeah.
So you've gone to all the truck stops where they do touchless acid washes. Like, this world.
Yeah.
There are advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes there's just a lot of real estate to try to contact wash.
Right, exactly. And for the bus, exactly, it gets brushed, it gets acid on it, it gets all sorts of things, but it's also painted in bed liner. It's not automotive paint. Completely different thing.
Foam rinse foam is a great method, and we hope you learned something there. If you didn't, more to come. Now, here's a game-changing technique that I think is great. It's the wash, clay, seal method, and it uses our perforated synthetic decontamination towel. A lot of people use the wash, clay, seal method, Ivan. I'm pretty sure you invented it.
Well, invented it may be a strong word.
Okay.
The perforated synthetic decontamination towel, yes, that was my invention 10 years ago. There used to be clay towels, and there still are on the market, that are not perforated, and they contain abrasives. What that does is every time you use them, and we see this in the comments all the time, you can't use clay without polishing afterwards. Correct, you can't use a clay bar without polishing afterwards because it has abrasives in it. And a lot of the flat clay towels have abrasives in it. Ours does not have abrasives. It's a completely different technology, and it's one that I helped to design and to manufacture.
So you helped design the original perforated synthetic decontamination towel.
And that was about 10 years ago.
Even if you didn't invent the wash, clay, seal method, 10 years ago, you can be seen on forums and in videos teaching this method. So if you're wondering, like, who was one of the original people talking about it, it was you.
Yeah, but that being said, the way all the techniques that we use at DIY Detail were pioneered in my detailing shops. And they were pioneered for efficiency, for customer satisfaction, and for the quality of the work. And that is one of the tenets behind the wash, clay, seal. It's a very easy, simple way to wash and decontaminate a vehicle and seal it at the same time.
Well, let's talk about the method, because I don't think it's for every vehicle, but I think it's a great kind of a maintenance wash type method where you want to decontaminate and protect at the same time. It may not be the one where, oh my gosh, this vehicle's been in a barn for 10 years.
No.
It needs a deep dive. Okay, you do everything in its proper order then.
Right.
But let's say it's a ceramic coated vehicle that hasn't really seen a decon towel in a year.
Right.
Might be time for a wash, clay, seal.
And exactly. And the wash, clay, seal is very simple. Do your contact wash. But before rinsing away that last step of the contact wash, whether it be Incredible Suds or Rinseless wash, you take our perforated synthetic decontamination towel and a bit of our friend ceramic gloss. One spray on the towel, one spray on the panel, match them up, do that panel gently, no pressure on the towel folded in four, and when you dry it off, you have a washed, sealed, and decontaminated panel. So a wash, clay, seal.
Wouldn't you just do that with Rinseless though?
You can do it with Rinseless, but you want to seal at the same time.
But if you did it with Incredible Suds, wouldn't you want to rinse the Incredible Suds off?
Not necessary.
Okay, so in this case, you wouldn't have to do a final rinse?
No.
With Incredible Suds?
With Incredible Suds. Because by the time you have done your contact wash, you've taken a lot of those excessive suds off the surface. There's not much left to rinse away. You can rinse it if you like, but it's not a necessity. I prefer to leave that little extra lubrication there.
So you could do the wash, clay, seal method with Incredible Suds or Rinseless. Okay, that's the first I'm hearing of this.
Yeah, but it's much better with Rinseless, by the way.
You're the big fan of Rinseless. You've been talking about it for a long time.
Right, and Rinseless is something that I adopted in the late 1990s. So it's been a while. And Rinseless has really come into its own in the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe the last 2 years even. 2 or 3 years ago, most companies did not have a Rinseless. Today, it's the other way around. There's not many companies that don't have a Rinseless wash. And some of them are late to the party. Some of them have come up with great innovations. But the Rinseless wash itself, the idea behind it, a lot of people confuse. They think it's a waterless wash. It's not a waterless wash. It's a rinseless wash. You're still rinsing at some point if you need to. The other part of a rinseless wash is the technique is a little different than soap and water. So people that are stubborn and they don't want to evolve and no, it'll never work for me. Someone that says they don't like rinseless washing or that it doesn't work, it's because they've never tried it.
I mean, if you've never tried Rinseless, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Check it out. We have a link to the product in our description. So Rinseless wash, rinseless wash. It's a game-changing technique. When you said they've never done it before, I was like, who hasn't tried Rinseless before? But there's lots of folks who haven't.
Yeah, a lot of people. And one thing that goes along with that is using a sponge to wash. Now, we've been told for the last 40 years, don't wash with a sponge. You're going to scratch the car. And I agree. If you're using the improper sponge. Some people are using grout sponges. Some people are buying cheap sponges that are flat surfaced. And the flat surface is what really makes the difference. Now, about 20 years ago, so 5 years into starting using rinseless wash, I developed a wash sponge. And every wash sponge on the market that has slits in it has, come down from that. The reason for developing that is I love the idea of the rinseless wash, but when using it with a traditional wash mitt, and back then it was the wool wash mitts, they just got slimy and greasy feeling. It wasn't fun. Some people were using grout sponges. That worked, but a grout sponge might last 10 washes and it disintegrates. I went to a friend of mine that's a pad making manufacturer and got samples and samples and samples of foam, up to 60 different samples of foam. Some of them got thrown in the garbage really quickly. Some of them stuck around, and we tried in our shops very different methods or very different types of foams, cuts, depthness of cup, size of the tool, to eventually come up with what we have today, the Legacy sponge.
You know what almost seems industry accepted or industry-wide now that I think is something you came up with, and if I'm wrong, I'm putting this into the air, not you, but using a rinseless wash damp and towel to clean interiors. Like, it is so easy, but I'm trying to think of a time before I heard it from you. I feel like it would have been like, yeah, grab your wash sponge and then wash the interior. That sounds crazy.
Yeah. But the rinseless dampened towel does many things, not just cleaning your interior, great at glass cleaning, great at removing polish residue. Those are just two or three of the little things you can do with it. But that rinseless dampened towel is a godsend. Great lubrication that comes with it, great safety, and great cleaning ability.
Yeah. If you haven't tried the rinseless dampened towel for interiors, again, what are you waiting for? I can't wait to talk about this last one, but stand by, because I have this other mineral cleanse to talk about. You were working for Optimum when I started detailing, and there was this product that you recommended that started to get implemented in my shop.
Right.
And I believe they had a different chemical, possibly similar concept, but it was mineral deposit remover. And I remember starting to use this, and it was very thick and viscous, and I'd put it on a sponge, and it would take me forever to rub it all over the vehicle.
Yes.
However, after I would rinse the paint away, the beading on my coated car would return, and it was like, what is this thing doing?
Yeah.
And you recommended using it before polishing, and I was like, it made so much sense, right? We want to get rid of the minerals before we drive them in with the polisher. Listen, we have our own product now, but I know the genesis. I know where your mind was at.
Yes.
The mineral cleanse is something that I didn't hear anybody else talking about.
No, and a lot of people, so again, I'm always, or I try to be at the forefront of the industry. I've been applying coatings for over 20 years. And after a year or two, people would complain that ceramic coating is dead, it's gone. It's not dead, it's not gone. It's very hard to remove ceramic coating from paint. What happens to ceramic coatings is two things. First of all, they fracture. Today's coatings, the ones that we have, fracturing is no longer really a concern. But the other thing is mineral contamination. And that mineral contamination you don't see. And what clued it off to me was after winter driving in Quebec, the sides of the car had no more beading whatsoever, but the roof and the hood was just beading like day one. So to me, it's like, okay, what's there? Tried washing the vehicle, nothing's coming off. It's washed, it's beautiful, but I didn't want to add a topper. To me, adding a topper is cheating. So I went through different things. And one of the things that I used, and it's what we use today now, was lactic acid. And lactic acid can be found in different things that we use, but lactic acid, and don't use just pure lactic acid, by the way, it can do damage in other places, but different types of acid, and with lactic acid, it was like, oh wow, the beading just comes right back because it attacks those minerals from the road salts, and if you live on a coastal area, you lose the beading on the roof, but you keep it on the sides because of the dew in the morning that has a bit of salt from the salt air.
So you figure this out, you talk to the team, this product gets developed.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love our water spot remover, which is, I think maybe the name is a little misleading.
Yeah.
Because I think it really is great more for a mineral cleanse than water spot removal. We can talk about that if you want. But being able to spray it on versus that really thick gel, I think that's made it so easy for the masses to use. A lot of people love it as a coating rejuvenator now.
Right, and that's what it's really good at. Yes, it can remove water spots, but water spots, you have to remember there's two characteristics to a water spot. A fresh water spot the mineral or the water spot remover will remove with ease. If those minerals have had time to etch the paint and dig their way down into the paint, they have made a scar. You can clean out the scar. The scar is always going to stay there until you get some plastic surgery done, and that is polishing. So the minerals we've taken away. So if it's a fresh water spot, it's going to take it away. If it's been sitting there for a couple of weeks, a month in direct sunlight on a black car, it's going to be etched.
Yeah, so our decontamination process is wash and then use the iron remover with the decon towel, then rinse the paint, then spray on our water spot remover, agitate in with the rinse and dampen towel, and then rinse again. So you want to decontaminate before polishing or protecting, or just sometimes you want to decontaminate your paint.
Yeah.
That is a great way to use, obviously, our water spot remover. Another way is just as a coating rejuvenator.
Yeah, just spray it on, agitate a little bit, rinse it off, and bingo, coating is back.
All right, we've touched on the mineral cleanse. And the fifth game-changing technique, which I have been adopting more and more, you know, whether it's on or off camera, is our adhesion promoter polish. I remember the day you brought it up in the team meeting of like, I've got this product I'm working on.
Right, but before we go there, I just want to add something else. We mentioned iron remover. Most companies will tell you to use iron remover by spraying it on the vehicle, letting it dwell, and then rinsing it away. That is a great way to waste iron remover, waste your time, and you're actually not doing as good a job. The way we teach and the way I've been teaching for years is to use the perforated synthetic decontamination towel with the iron remover. And that does many things. First of all, that little ball of iron, your brakes are hot, comes off the brakes, attaches itself to the paint. Then it gets moist, it starts to rust. And that's where we see that little speck, especially if you have a white car. Look behind your wheels, you'll find them. Those little specks are rust. Iron remover does not remove iron. It removes rust. It converts the rust to that red, characteristic red that we see. That little ball of metal that's attached to the paint, if we don't remove it, it stays there. And we have a video, it'll be linked below, where we do a test half and half. One half of a white SUV, the back end of it, that had a lot of iron on it. We sprayed it on liberally, and it was Nick spraying, so you know there was a lot there.
I have fond memories calling it. I believe we filmed it right about here.
Yeah, exactly. It smelled that day in the shop. On the other side, I just did what we normally do, which is in the decontamination towel, one on the panel, one on the towel, and do that section. Then we let it dwell, we rinsed away, then we applied iron remover over the whole thing again. The side that Nick did, even though he had a ton of iron remover on it, red dots everywhere. My side, yes, there were a few, but not as many. By removing that ball of iron mechanically using the decontamination towel, now the iron remover just has to work on the rust stain. It doesn't have to try to get in behind that piece of iron to try to dislodge it, which is wishful thinking most of the time.
It's a great method. I mean, I used to just douse the entire vehicle with half a bottle of very expensive iron remover. And then use it as a lube, and it was very inefficient. So one spray on the towel, one on the paint, using your bed of lubrication, either as your rinseless wash or Incredible Suds. Another game-changing method. I think we're already over 5. As I said, we promise value. If you've used any of these, please write in the comments below, because I think it helps the skeptic out there to understand this stuff actually is legit.
Right, and the app.
Yeah, so, adhesion promoter polish, Ivan.
The adhesion promoter polish is something I've been thinking about, dreaming about, scheming about since I started doing coatings.
You don't stop dreaming or thinking or scheming ever, Ivan. You're always up to something.
Yeah. You know, people,
that's your leisure time, is like thinking of the next big thing.
Right. Not the next big thing, but helping people. That's what I want to do. I want to make detailing fun, efficient, profitable for the entrepreneur, and safe. Now, the app brings safety, it brings ease of use, and it gives a better result. And that better result comes from how the app works. Now, the app actually swells the paint. And what got me thinking about this is, if we go back, some polishes have a lot of solvents in them that swell the paint. And they give you the impression that you've done a great paint correction till that swelling goes down. And I wanted to swell the paint, but not that way. I wanted to keep it in that swollen state. So when we apply the coating, we're not applying the coating on the surface, but we're applying the coating in the surface.
So how do we keep it swollen and not have it be temporary? Obviously, I'm not a chemist.
Yeah. we have just a minute amount of polysiloxane and SiO2 in the formula. Now, there are primer polishes out there, and the reason we didn't call it a primer polish, two very different technologies. A primer polish fills the pores and lays a foundation, hopefully, that the coating will bond to. Some coatings react well to those, some don't, because like our coatings, they're designed to attach themselves to paint. They're not designed to attach themselves to something else that's been put there. And the way we've done it with the app is there's a mild abrasive in it. It's not going to do any paint correction. That abrasive is for deep cleaning. We also have a bit of tea tree oil, which gives it a great smell. But at the same time, it's something that's, as far as I'm concerned, not used enough in detailing. But the tea tree oil, what it does is it swells it a little bit, and it carries that little minute amount of polysiloxane and SiO2 in there. Now, if you imagine the pores being opened up, and people that think that clear coat and paint is this nice solid surface will insert an image here. And that image is an electron microscope slice of a paint, looking not down onto the paint, but sideways into the paint. And you can see it's just full of bubbles. It looks like a sponge. There's a little crust on the surface, but other than that, it's a sponge. So we want to open that up and allow the coating to go in. That way we not only get a coalescent bond or a chemical bond, we also get a mechanical bond. And that slight swelling of the paint plus that depth that we get makes the coating seem glossier. And it's not just, it seems to be glossier, it actually is glossier. It's been tested independently, not by us. Dimitri's garage, you can go there, see his test on Hydrolite, C6 Hydrolite, and he did with and without app, and there was a difference. But the other thing that it does is it actually makes the process faster, because doing a proper step with a paint prep or a panel prep takes longer than it does to do the app.
Yeah, panel prep is not as fast as I once thought it was, because we use the one towel, and before it flashes, then we use another towel to mop it up. Otherwise, it just kind of dries back into the paint, right? You talk about removing all these polishing oils. If you just wipe it with one side and then let it dry and think that you've cleaned the paint, you got to mop it up with a dry towel. So it's actually a little bit more laborious process than I realized. And the app is just more fun.
Yeah.
It smells better. You kind of feel like you're adding that extra gloss, so it's a little bit more fun.
And you get to use a tool.
Yeah, you know, if you have a good palm sander like we do, the
Yeah.
Fendo, which we have a link in the description below as well.
Right.
And everything we talk about, we'll put links in the description below. But
Yeah.
you know, it is a very pleasant smell.
Yeah.
And the gloss is improved.
And since the app doesn't leave anything behind, it just opens up the paint, any coating will benefit from the app. So it was developed originally for the C6 line, which is our professional only line of products. But in using it in testing, it was like, no, we have to let everyone use this because it's such a great product. And I won't say game changing because I know that's well overused in this industry, but it is a change, and I hope a change for the better.
You've won me over this trip, actually. I was a little skeptical about C6 app. To me, it felt like an extra step that we were doing for the sake of doing it. I'm now on board.
Right.
From seeing the gloss enhancement.
Yeah, once you actually try it and see what it can do for you, it's great. And if you have a brand new vehicle that doesn't need any paint correction or enhancement, then do the decontamination steps that we talked about with the iron remover and the mineral cleanse, and then the app and coat.
Far be it from us to say our techniques are the only ones that can help. In fact, I think the conversation is the education. So we learn from hearing your suggestions and some of your hacks out there. So write in the comments, like, what's something that's helped you save a lot of time in detailing? Whether it's us or whether it's not, whether it's app, whether it's something else. Let's all learn from each other, Ivan.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great ways to detail. There's no one, this is the only way to do it. So we're teaching you methods that I developed and Sylvie developed in our shops. We had numerous shops in Quebec. We had a franchise system. We developed these techniques to be more efficient, to be safer for our employees, to be more cost effective, give better quality and better results to our customers. And that is the basis or the genesis of the DIY system.
Well, these are hopefully some game changers for you. When it comes to techniques, not all are created equal. In fact, there's some overrated detailing techniques, and if you want to know what those are, I highly suggest you check this video out right here.